Poor mother is rejected at a job interview for bringing her twin babies, until the billionaire owner sees everything and changes it all. Olivia Hayes nudged the glass door with her shoulder, trying to balance both babies in her arms. Lily whimpered on the left side. Daisy drooled on the right. Their blonde hair was stuck to their sweaty foreheads, and Olivia knew hers wasn't much better. She was late, very late. The bus had broken down halfway there. She had to rush off with the twins, catch another one, and pray to arrive on time. But it didn't happen. 15 minutes late for an interview she desperately needed to get. The reception area of Sterling Creative was everything she imagined. Modern, clean, full of well-dressed people typing on expensive computers, minimalist artwork on the walls, leather sofas that probably cost more than her rent. The cold air conditioning hit her face like a slap of reality. She didn't belong here, but she had to try. Olivia approached the counter, adjusting Lily on her hip while Daisy tightly grasped her hair. The shoulder bag weighed heavily, packed with diapers, bottles, and toys she had brought in hopes of keeping the girls quiet. The receptionist looked up from her computer screen, and Olivia saw the expression change instantly, from neutral to disapproval. "Hi, I have an interview scheduled for 3 o'clock. Olivia Hayes." The woman looked at the babies, then at Olivia, then at the babies again, as if trying to understand what she was seeing. "Ma'am, you have children with you." "I know." Olivia forced a smile, trying to look confident, "but I promise they'll be quiet. I brought toys, bottles, everything. They won't be a distraction." The receptionist sighed, as if dealing with something utterly absurd. "I will check with HR." She picked up the phone, mumbled something Olivia couldn't quite hear, and hung up. When she looked back, her face was even more closed off. "I'm afraid the interview cannot be conducted with children present. It is company policy." Olivia felt her stomach drop. "But I scheduled this in advance. No one notified me of this." "It's a general rule, ma'am. We do not make exceptions. Please." Olivia's voice came out more desperate than she intended. "I need this job. I have no one to leave them with. I tried up, but I couldn't find anyone. I'm sorry." "There are no exceptions." The receptionist was already looking away, as if the matter was closed. Lily began to cry. Daisy followed, as if sensing their mother's tension. Olivia bounced her arms, trying to calm them, but the crying only intensified. People in the reception area started to look, some with pity, others with clear irritation on their faces. "Ma'am, you cannot enter with children." The receptionist now spoke louder, as if Olivia hadn't understood the first time. "I need the job." Olivia felt her voice tremble, but she couldn't hold back. "We don't have any money." The words came out raw, desperate, echoing through the silent reception. She didn't want to beg. She didn't want to humiliate herself in front of strangers, but she was at her limit. She had 3 overdue bills, the fridge was nearly empty, and the girls needed diapers. The receptionist merely looked away, visibly embarrassed. The others pretended to be busy, but Olivia knew everyone was listening. She took a deep breath, holding back the tears that threatened to fall. She wouldn't cry here, not in front of everyone. She had humiliated herself enough. Olivia turned to leave when she heard a voice. "What is going on here?" The voice was deep, controlled, the kind of voice that makes everyone stop and pay attention. Olivia turned slowly. A tall man in an immaculate dark suit and a posture that screamed authority stood near the counter. His eyes were fixed on the receptionist, waiting for an answer. "Mr. Sterling." The receptionist swallowed hard, her face turning red. "It's just that the candidate brought children to the interview, and company policy doesn't allow—" "I am familiar with the policy." He cut her off, but not harshly, just firmly. "I'm asking what is going on." The woman opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. Alexander Sterling, because it could only be him, shifted his gaze to Olivia. He observed her for a moment, not with judgment, not with pity, just observed, as if trying to understand the full situation before reacting. Olivia felt her face flush. She was sweaty, messy, with 2 crying babies in her arms. She probably looked like a walking disaster. Her sneakers were worn, her blouse wrinkled from carrying the girls. "Are you Olivia Hayes?" he asked, his voice softer now. I am. She tried to sound steady, but her voice was low, tired. I apologize for being late. And I apologize for this. I had no one to leave them with. I tried everything, but how old are they? The question caught Olivia off guard. She expected something else. A complaint, maybe, or to be politely sent away. 10 months, Alexander nodded, as if processing the information. His eyes went to the girls. Lily had stopped crying and was looking at him with curiosity, her blue eyes wide. Daisy was still quietly sobbing, her little face red. Are they twins? They are. Lily and Daisy. He remained silent for another moment. The entire reception area seemed to be holding its breath. Then Alexander looked at the receptionist. Cancel the other candidates for today. The woman blinked, confused. Sir? Cancel all of them. He turned his eyes back to Olivia, and there was something different there now. Determination. She's hired. Absolute silence. Olivia thought she had heard wrong. Her brain refused to process what he had just said. What? You start on Monday. Human Resources will contact you later today with the details. Salary, hours, everything you need to know. She just stared at him, her mouth slightly open, unable to form a word. But I didn't even have the interview. You don't need one. Alexander offered a slight, almost imperceptible smile. Someone who braves the whole city with 2 babies just for a chance deserves to be here. And deserves a fair opportunity. Olivia felt the tears return, but this time they weren't tears of despair. It was something different. Relief, gratitude, shock. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just show up on Monday punctually. He paused. And without guilt, and everyone has tough days. He nodded politely and started to walk away toward the elevators. Mr. Sterling, Olivia called out before he disappeared. He stopped and looked back, waiting. Thank you. Truly. Alexander merely nodded, as if it were no big deal, and then he vanished into the elevator. Olivia stood there, frozen in the middle of the reception, with Lily and Daisy finally settling in her arms. The people around still looked, but now with something different in their eyes, curiosity, surprise, perhaps even a little respect. The receptionist cleared her throat, clearly uncomfortable. Well, congratulations, Ms. Hayes. Someone from HR will call later today to provide the information. Olivia could barely respond. She just whispered a quiet, thank you, and walked out, her legs shaky, her heart pounding irregularly. When she reached the sidewalk, she leaned against the cold wall of the building and let the air out of her lungs. Lily looked at her with those curious blue eyes, and Daisy tugged a lock of her mother's hair, as she always did when calming down. We did it, Olivia whispered, more to herself than to them. We actually did it. She didn't know who Alexander Sterling was beyond his name. She didn't know why he had done that. Why he had risked his reputation, company policy, everything, for a desperate stranger with 2 babies in her arms. But she knew one thing. For the first time in a very long time, a door had opened, and she wasn't going to waste this chance. Not when she had Lily and Daisy counting on her, not when she finally had a real opportunity. Olivia woke up 2 hours earlier than necessary. It wasn't by choice. Her nervousness hadn't let her sleep properly all night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the scene repeating, her arriving late, something going wrong, losing the chance before it even started. She couldn't let that happen. At 5:30 in the morning, she was already up, preparing the girls' bottles. Lily and Daisy were still sleeping in the cramped room they shared, tucked into their faded pink blankets, their blonde hair spread on the pillow, their faces peaceful, their cheeks rosy. Olivia paused at the door for a moment, just observing. It was for them. Everything was for them. By 6:15, all 3 were ready. Olivia put on the only professional blouse she owned, applied a light lipstick, and pinned her hair in a simple bun. Nothing too elaborate, just enough to look professional. She looked at herself in the cracked bathroom mirror and took a deep breath. You can do this. She needed to believe it. The community daycare was 3 blocks away. It was small, noisy, but the women who worked there were kind. Olivia had known the owner, Ms. Helen, since the twins were born. She had managed to secure a partial scholarship, but it still hurt her budget. It would be worth it now. The morning air was chilly. Olivia bundled the girls in the wool jackets she had bought at a thrift store. Lily looked at everything with her curious blue eyes, and Daisy yawned against her mother's shoulder. "Good morning, dear." "Ms." Helen opened the door with a wide smile. First day." "First day." Olivia handed over Lily, then Daisy. "I brought everything, diapers, bottles, extra clothes." "Extra. And there are some crackers they like, just in case." "Relax, my love." Helen adjusted the 2 girls in her arms with the practice of someone who had cared for dozens of children. "They'll be fine. You need to focus on work. Go there and rock it." Olivia nodded, but her chest tightened when Lily stretched her little arms towards her, pouting. "Mommy will be right back, my darling." She kissed both their foreheads quickly, before the urge to stay won out. "Be good for Ms. Helen, okay?" Daisy grabbed a lock of her hair, and Olivia had to gently release her little hand. She hurried out of there, almost running before she could change her mind. On the bus, Olivia stood even though there were empty seats. She didn't want to wrinkle her clothes. Every detail mattered. She looked out the window, watching the city slowly wake up, shops opening, people rushing to work, life happening, and she, for the first time in a long time, was truly a part of it. She arrived outside the Sterling Creative Building at 7:40, 20 minutes early. She took a deep breath and walked in. The reception area was emptier than it had been on Friday. The same receptionist was there, typing something on the computer. This time, when Olivia passed, the woman just nodded. Not warm, but not hostile either. Olivia didn't mind. She just sat on one of the leather sofas and waited. 7:50, 8 o'clock, 8:15. People started arriving. Executives in suits, designers with stylish backpacks, people talking animatedly about projects and deadlines. Olivia just watched, quiet, trying to absorb the atmosphere, the energy of the place, the pace. At 8:30, he appeared. Alexander Sterling walked through the main door, talking on his cell phone. He wore a dark grey suit, his posture straight, confident. He didn't look sideways, focused on the call. Something about him was different. It wasn't arrogance, it was just presence. Olivia stood up, hesitant. She didn't know if she should interrupt, but she needed to speak to him. She needed to thank him properly. She took a few steps towards him, but stopped. Alexander hung up the phone, ran a hand through his hair, sighed, and headed towards the elevators. "Mr. Sterling." He stopped, turned around. It took him a second to recognize her, but when he did, something in his face relaxed. "Olivia, good morning." "Good morning." She swallowed hard, feeling her hands sweat. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity. I promise I won't let you down." Alexander observed her for a moment. There was no rush in his gestures, just genuine attention, as if those few seconds belonged only to her. "I know things must not be easy." He spoke slowly, choosing his words. "But everyone deserves a real chance." Olivia felt a lump in her throat. She hadn't expected that. She expected a polite "you're welcome," maybe a quick nod, but he had said something that seemed real, sincere. "Thank you. Truly." Alexander nodded. "Human Resources is already waiting for you. 3rd floor. They'll explain everything you need to know." "Right. Thank you." He gave a slight smile and stepped into the elevator. Olivia stood there, her heart beating faster. She couldn't explain it, but something about that man was different. He didn't look at her with pity. He didn't look at her as if she were a charity project. He looked at her with respect, and that made all the difference. HR was quick and straightforward. A woman named Sarah handed her a pile of papers, explained about hours, benefits, company policies. Olivia signed where asked, read everything carefully, and asked questions when she didn't understand. "You will be an administrative assistant, working directly with the operations team," Sarah explained, flipping through a folder. It's a general support position. Document organization, filing, scheduling, nothing too complicated, but it requires attention to detail. I understand perfectly. Your direct supervisor is David. He'll show you everything. Olivia nodded. She mentally noted the name. Her supervisor, David, appeared 15 minutes later. He was tall, thin, with a tired expression of someone dealing with too much at once. "Are you Olivia?" "I am. Come with me." He didn't wait for a response. He just started walking down the hallway. Olivia followed him, trying to memorize every detail. The doors, the rooms, the faces of the people. Everything mattered. "You'll be here." David pointed to a desk in the corner near the noisy printer. "Basically, you'll organize documents, file contracts, help with scheduling, nothing overly complicated." "Understood. Any questions?" "No. I'll handle it." David stared at her for a moment, as if judging whether she really could. Then he nodded. "Anything you need, call me," and he left. Olivia sat down in the chair, looking around. The desk was simple. An old computer, a pile of disorganized folders, a desk phone, a forgotten mug with old coffee remains, but it was hers. She cleaned the mug, threw away old papers, organized the folders by date, turned on the computer, waited for it to load, and started working. The following days were intense. Olivia always arrived early, left on time, and didn't waste a minute. She filed contracts carefully, organized spreadsheets, and answered phone calls politely. She didn't complain, she didn't ask for help unless it was truly necessary. She did the job. That's it. Some colleagues were friendly. A woman named Janet always brought cookies and offered her some. A guy from finance, Michael, helped her understand the digital filing system on the second day. Others, not so much. There was a designer, Chloe, who tossed a pile of documents onto her desk on the second day, without even looking properly. "Need these scanned by tomorrow?" Olivia simply nodded. "Of course." Chloe seemed surprised. She probably expected resistance, or at least a complaint. But Olivia wasn't there to cause trouble. She was there to work, to prove she deserved that chance. And if that meant scanning 200 documents, then that's what she was going to do. She scanned everything, organized it by date, created digital folders separated by project. She checked twice to make sure there were no errors. She delivered it at the end of the day, ahead of the deadline. Chloe just took the digital folder, glanced at it quickly, and left. She didn't thank her, but she also didn't complain, and Olivia considered that a victory. Alexander noticed. It wasn't something he sought out, but it was impossible not to perceive. Olivia was always there, quiet, efficient, without drawing attention. She organized the filing room that no one had time to sort out. She always kept the printer stocked with paper. She treated everyone politely, even when she didn't receive the same in return. He saw her occasionally, walking through the corridors, always focused, always with that discreet posture of someone who doesn't want to bother anyone. And that intrigued him. Most people wanted to be noticed. They wanted recognition, praise, quick promotions. Olivia seemed to just want to do her job in peace. He respected that. One day, midweek, Alexander went down to get a coffee in the second-floor kitchenette. He usually used the machine in his office, but he was out of pods and needed a break from the chaos upstairs. The kitchenette was crowded, people talking loudly, laughing, complaining about tight deadlines. The noise echoed off the glass walls. And there in the corner, completely oblivious to the chaos, was Olivia. She slowly stirred her coffee, looking out the large window that overlooked the street. Her face was serene, her shoulders relaxed, as if she had created an invisible bubble around herself. Alexander grabbed a cup, filled it with water, and stood there for a moment, observing without being intrusive. "This place is noisy, but you always seem so composed." Olivia turned around, startled. It took her a second to realize he was talking to her. "Oh." She offered a small, almost shy smile. With 2 babies at home, silence is almost a luxury. Alexander let out a low, genuine laugh. "I can imagine." They stood there in comfortable silence for a few seconds, while the constant chatter continued around them. "Are you adjusting well?" he asked. leaning slightly against the counter. I am. Everyone has been... She hesitated, searching for the right word. Professional. Alexander noticed the careful choice. It wasn't kind, it wasn't welcoming, it was professional. And he understood exactly what she wasn't saying. If you need anything at all, you can talk to HR, or to me, if you prefer. Olivia looked at him, surprised again, as if she couldn't believe he was actually offering that. Thank you, but everything is fine. I just want to do my job properly. He nodded, approving the answer. You are doing it. And before she could reply, someone called Alexander from the hallway. He nodded politely and left, leaving his cup by the sink. Olivia stood there, her coffee cooling in her hand, her heart beating a little faster. She didn't quite understand. But every time she spoke to him, she felt like someone truly saw her, not as just another employee, not as someone who needed pity or charity, but as someone who deserved to be there. By the end of the first week, Olivia was exhausted, waking up at 5:30, dropping the girls at daycare at 6:30, working all day, picking them up at 6 in the evening, bathing them, cooking with whatever she had in the fridge, putting them to sleep, and starting over the next day. But when she thought about the paycheck she would receive at the end of the month, it was worth every second of fatigue. On Friday afternoon, before leaving, she stopped by the filing room. She had left a folder there earlier and needed to retrieve it before the weekend. When she walked in, she saw Alexander with his back to her, searching for something on the high shelves. Excuse me, she spoke softly, almost whispering. I just came to grab a folder. No problem. He stepped aside to make room without taking his eyes off the shelves. Olivia grabbed what she needed and was about to leave quickly, but he called out, Olivia. She stopped, turning around slowly. Yes. Good work this week. She blinked, unsure what to say. No one had said that to her yet. Thank you. No need to thank me. It's just due recognition. He left the room before she could respond. Olivia stood there alone among the shelves filled with documents, the folder held against her chest. She felt her eyes sting, but held firm. She wasn't going to cry at work, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was in the right place. And that maybe, just maybe, things really could get better. She left the building with a discreet smile on her face. Lily and Daisy were waiting for her, and now she had something real to offer them, a future. The second week began as the first one had ended, Olivia arriving early, working quietly, leaving on time. But something had changed. She wasn't just performing tasks anymore. She was understanding how the company worked. And the more she understood, the more she saw things that could be improved. The filing room, for example, was a mess. Documents stacked haphazardly, mixed folders, contracts from different years thrown onto the same shelf. No one could find anything without wasting at least 20 minutes searching. Olivia started slowly. During breaks, or when she finished her tasks early, she would go there and organize, separated by year, then by client, then by contract type. She created colored labels, a simple system anyone could follow. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't announce what she was doing, she just did it. On Wednesday, Michael from finance came into the room looking for an old contract. Did you see the file for the Grayson Corp? Last year, I think. Shelf 2, third blue folder from the left, Olivia replied, without looking up from her screen. Michael looked confused, but went to check. He found it in less than 10 seconds. Wow. How did you know? I reorganized everything. It's now in alphabetical order and by year. He looked around, impressed. Seriously, man, that's going to save an absurd amount of time. Thank you. Olivia just smiled. You're welcome. But not everyone was happy. Chloe was the first to complain. Who told you to mess with the files? Olivia was organizing a pile of contracts on her desk when Chloe appeared, arms crossed, her tone accusatory. No one did. I just thought it would make everyone's job easier. But no one asked for your opinion. Everyone has their own way of working. I understand. Olivia kept her voice calm, polite. But now anyone can find what they need in seconds. Before, it took 20 minutes and sometimes more. Chloe opened her mouth to reply, but David appeared in the doorway. Any problem here? Olivia is messing with things that aren't her concern, Chloe said, pointing towards the filing room. David looked at Olivia. Is that true? I just organized the documents. Nothing was thrown away. Everything is catalogued. He walked into the room, took a quick look, and came back. Looks good. More organized than before. Chloe scoffed. Whatever. I have more important things to do. And she left, annoyed. Olivia took a deep breath but didn't say anything. David stared at her for a moment. Good job. But next time, let me know before changing anything, okay? Okay. He left. Olivia returned to work, her hands trembling slightly. She didn't like conflict, but she also wasn't going to stop doing what she thought was right just because it bothered someone. In the following days, repetitive tasks started piling up. Chloe came back with another stack of documents. You need to type all of this manually. Olivia looked. They were old handwritten forms that needed to be transcribed into the system. All right, when do you need them? Tomorrow. It was at least 50 forms. It would take hours. I'll do it. Chloe smiled faintly, satisfied, and left. Olivia started typing, line by line, name, date, values, observations. It was tedious, exhausting, but she didn't complain, she just did it. She finished everything on time. The next day, Chloe returned with more. Since you're so efficient, here's another batch. Olivia accepted without blinking, but this time, she thought differently. Instead of typing manually, she scanned all the forms, used a text recognition program, corrected the errors the system generated, and organized everything in less than half the time. When she handed it over, Chloe frowned. Did you do all of it? I did. How? I optimized the process. Chloe didn't like the answer, but she couldn't complain. The work was impeccable. Alexander observed from afar. He wasn't actively looking, but it was impossible not to notice. Olivia didn't complain, didn't make a drama. She just solved the problems that appeared in front of her. And more than that, she improved the things around her. The printer, which was constantly jamming, now worked perfectly. Olivia had found out it was just a matter of regular cleaning and adjusting the settings. The scheduling system, which always caused conflicts, was running smoothly. She had created a simple spreadsheet that synchronized everything automatically. Small things, but they made a difference. Late one afternoon, Alexander was walking down the hallway when he heard raised voices. You're not paid to think. You're paid to do what you're told. It was Chloe. The voice came from the small meeting room. Alexander stopped. I was just trying to help. Olivia's voice was low, controlled. The old process was creating errors and delaying everyone. No one asked for your help, but the result was better. It doesn't matter. You don't have the authority to change processes. Silence. Alexander opened the door. Both women turned, surprised. Any problem here? Chloe adjusted her posture, trying to look professional. No, Mr. Sterling, we were just aligning expectations. He looked at Olivia. She was standing, arms crossed, her expression neutral, but he saw the tension in her shoulders. Olivia, what did you change in the process? She hesitated but answered. The freelancer hours registration system. It was generating duplicates and delaying payments. I created an automatic verification that eliminates the errors before sending it to finance. Alexander nodded. And is it working? It is. Michael confirmed that the errors have dropped to 0 in the last 2 weeks. He looked at Chloe. Then I don't see a problem. Chloe opened her mouth, but said nothing. If she is improving processes and making work easier, it benefits everyone, including you. Alexander spoke firmly but without aggression. If you have any real concerns about changes, bring them to me or David, but do not repress initiative. Chloe nodded, her face red. Understood. Good. He left, without looking back. Olivia stood there, still processing what had happened. Chloe glared at her for a moment, then left the room without a word. That night, Olivia left work with a strange feeling in her chest. It wasn't relief, it wasn't pride. It was something different. As if, for the first time, someone had defended her. Not because they pitied her, but because they recognized the value of her work. On the bus ride home, she looked out the window and thought about everything that had happened in the last few weeks. The repetitive tasks, the taunts, the resistance, but also the small victories, the processes she improved, the people who started seeking her out when they needed something, and Alexander always observing in silence, always acknowledging what she was doing. Olivia didn't need praise. She didn't need the spotlight, but knowing that someone saw her effort, that made all the difference. When she arrived at the daycare, Lily and Daisy greeted her with wide smiles and outstretched arms. "Hi, my darlings." Olivia picked up both of them, kissing their rosy cheeks. "Mommy had an interesting day today." Daisy pulled her hair, and Lily drooled on her blouse shoulder. Olivia smiled. She was tired, but she was on the right path, and she wasn't going to stop now. It was past 8 in the evening when Olivia realized she wasn't the only one still at the office. She had stayed a little later organizing the weekly reports. She wanted to get everything ready for Monday, to get as much done as possible. The girls were with Miss Helen, who had offered to stay with them later in exchange for a small extra fee that Olivia could barely afford, but which was worth it. The office was silent, almost empty, only a few lights on the floors above. Olivia gathered her things, grabbed the folder that David had asked for earlier and which she had forgotten to return, and headed towards the main meeting room on the 4th floor. When she got close, she heard voices. They weren't normal meeting voices. They were tense, frustrated. She hesitated at the door. Maybe she should come back tomorrow. But the folder was important, and David had said he needed it as soon as possible. She tapped lightly on the glass door. No one answered. She opened it slowly, just enough to peek her head inside. The room was full, about 10 people around the long table. Computers open, papers scattered everywhere, empty coffee cups piled in the corner. The whiteboard on the wall was covered with scribbled phrases, crossed-out ideas, arrows pointing to nothing. Alexander stood at the head of the table, his shirt sleeves rolled up, his tie tossed onto a chair. He was looking at the board with an expression Olivia had never seen on him. Tiredness, frustration. "Sorry to interrupt." Olivia spoke softly. "I just came to drop off David's folder." Alexander didn't even look up. "Leave it there." He vaguely pointed to an empty chair. Olivia quickly walked in, placed the folder where he indicated, and was about to leave when she heard his voice. "None of this makes sense." He wasn't talking to her, he was talking to the team, but the tone was one of giving up. Of someone who had tried everything and nothing was working. "The campaign needs to be emotional," a woman with glasses said, flipping through papers. "But it can't be mushy. It has to be authentic." "We already tried authentic," another man retorted. It came across as generic. "Then it needs to be more specific, but too specific alienates the general public. And too general doesn't connect with anyone." The voices overlapped, everyone talking at once, no one getting anywhere. Alexander ran a hand over his face, visibly exhausted. "Nothing makes sense." Olivia stopped at the door. It wasn't her business. She wasn't part of that meeting. She didn't understand campaigns or advertising. She was just an administrative assistant. But something about that sentence struck her. She looked at Alexander, at the board full of ideas that led nowhere, at the exhausted people trying to force something that just wasn't coming out. And without thinking much, without calculating whether she should or shouldn't, she spoke. "Sometimes, what makes sense is just what truly touches someone." The silence was immediate. All heads turned toward her. Olivia felt her face flush. She hadn't realized she had spoken loud enough for everyone to hear. "Sorry," she mumbled, taking a step back. "I didn't mean to—" But before she could finish, she hurried out, closing the door behind her. She practically ran down the stairs, her heart pounding. How absurd. She had gotten involved in a meeting that wasn't hers, had given an opinion on something she didn't understand, in front of the CEO and the entire creative team. She was probably going to be fired on Monday. Inside the room, the silence continued for a few more seconds. Alexander stood still, looking at the door through which Olivia had exited. "What did she say?" Chloe asked, confused. Alexander repeated it, slowly, as if savoring every word. "Sometimes what makes sense is just what truly touches someone." He turned to the board, looked at all the scribbled phrases, the forced concepts, the attempts to create something that was emotional, authentic, specific, and universal all at once. And then he understood. They were trying to make sense for everyone. They were trying to create a perfect formula that would please all audiences, hit all the metrics, check all the boxes. But they weren't truly touching anyone. "That's it," Alexander said, more to himself than to the others. "What is?" David asked. Alexander grabbed a marker and crossed out everything on the board. Everyone in the room tensed, but no one said anything. He wrote in the center, in large letters, "What truly touches someone?" Then he turned to the team. "We were trying to convince, to impress, to sell," he pointed to the board. "But we weren't trying to touch," Chloe frowned. "But we need both, to touch and to sell." "No," Alexander shook his head. "If you truly touch them, the sale comes naturally. People don't buy products. They buy what that product makes them feel." He began to pace the room, his energy returning. "The client is a network of children's hospitals. We were trying to showcase technology, efficiency, results. But what really matters, what touches the parents who bring their children there?" Thoughtful silence. "Hope," the woman with glasses said, slowly. "They want to feel like they are in the right place. That their children will be okay." "Exactly," Alexander pointed at her. "It's not about showing numbers. It's about showing that every child matters, that every family is seen, that no one is alone there." David nodded, picking up his notebook. "We can focus on real stories, real families. No script, no staging, just truth." "And the tagline?" another designer asked. Alexander looked at the phrase he had written on the board. Then he wrote underneath, "Because you truly matter." The room fell silent again. But this time, it wasn't the silence of frustration. It was the silence of recognition. "That's it," Chloe said, and for the first time that night, she seemed convinced. "That is it." The team started talking at once, but now with a different energy, ideas flowing, directions forming. The block was broken. Alexander sat down, exhausted but satisfied. He looked at the door again. Olivia probably didn't even know what she had done. She had walked in, dropped off a folder, said a simple sentence, and left. But that sentence had unlocked everything. On Monday morning, Olivia arrived early as usual. She was tense. She had spent the weekend expecting a call from HR saying they no longer needed her, that she had crossed a line, that administrative assistants didn't offer opinions in creative meetings, but the call didn't come. She walked into the office, went to her desk and turned on the computer. Everything was normal. At 10 o'clock, David appeared. "Olivia, Alexander wants to talk to you." Her stomach churned. "Now?" "Now." She followed him to the office on the top floor, her heart pounding. David knocked on the door, opened it, and signaled for her to enter. Alexander was sitting behind his desk, typing something. When he saw Olivia, he stopped and pointed to the chair in front of him. "Sit down." She sat, her hands sweating. "I wanted to apologize for Friday." Olivia started before he could speak. "I shouldn't have interfered. It wasn't my meeting, and you saved the campaign." Olivia stopped, confused. "What? The sentence you said, it unlocked everything." Alexander leaned back in his chair. "We were stuck for 3 days, trying to force something that wouldn't come out, and you, without even realizing it, gave us the direction we needed." She blinked. I don't understand." "You have sensitivity," he said simply. "You see things differently, more humanly. And that is rare." Olivia didn't know what to say. "Thank you." Alexander smiled slightly. "Go back to work, and the next time you have an idea, don't run away. Speak up." She nodded, still processing. She left the office in a daze. When she returned to her desk, Michael passed by and gave her a friendly elbow nudge. "I hear you're a creative consultant now." Olivia laughed, embarrassed. It was unintentional. The best successes always are. She sat down, looked at the computer screen, and for the first time allowed herself to feel something other than fear. Pride. Small, discreet, but real. Olivia woke up to crying. It wasn't the usual cry of hunger or a dirty diaper. It was different, more high-pitched, desperate. She jumped out of bed, her heart pounding, and ran to the girls' room. Lily was red, her little face sweaty, whimpering softly. Daisy cried louder, thrashing in her crib. Olivia picked up Lily first and felt it immediately. Her skin was burning. "No, no, no," she murmured, placing her hand on her daughter's forehead. "A fever. High." She picked up Daisy. The same thing. Panic rose in her throat, but she forced it down. She needed to think. She needed to act. Thermometer. Medicine. Water. She ran to the bathroom, grabbed the digital thermometer she had bought second-hand dolls and returned to the room. She measured Lily first, 39 degrees Celsius, then Daisy, 38.5. "It's okay, my darlings," Olivia spoke in the calmest voice she could manage, even with her hands shaking. "Mommy will take care of you." She grabbed the children's fever reducer, carefully calculated the dose, and gave it to each one. Lily spit out half-as, making a face. Daisy accepted it better, but kept crying, her little face wet with tears. Olivia spent the next 2 hours trying to calm them. Warm bath to bring the fever down, cold compresses on their foreheads, water, lots of cuddles. By the time she finally managed to get both of them back to sleep, it was past 6 in the morning. She looked at the clock on the living room wall. She needed to be at work in 2 hours. Olivia sat on the old couch, her head in her hands. She considered her options. Ms. Helen only opened the daycare at 7 Sue, and even then, she didn't accept sick children. It was policy. She had no family nearby. She had no friends close enough to ask for this kind of favor. She was alone, and the girls were sick. She picked up her cell phone with trembling hands, stared at the screen for a long moment, and dialed. 3 rings. "Sterling Creative, good morning." "Hi, this is Olivia Hayes." Her voice was low, tired. "I need to speak to David, please." "One moment." The hold music played. Olivia looked at the sleeping girls, their faces still red. "David." "Hi, David." "It's Olivia." She took a deep breath. "My daughters are sick. They both have a fever, and I have no one to leave them with. I won't be able to come in today. I'm so sorry." Silence on the other end. "I understand." His tone was neutral, impossible to tell what he was thinking. "Do you know when you might be able to return?" I don't know. Maybe tomorrow." "It depends on how they are." "Okay, keep us informed." "I will, I'm really sorry." "All right." He hung up. Olivia stared at the phone, her chest tight. He had sounded cold, impersonal, as if all her effort over the last few weeks didn't matter. She had worked so hard, done everything right, arrived early, left on time, proven her worth. But one day, one emergency, was all it took for everything to fall apart. Lily whimpered in her crib, and Olivia quickly got up, wiping her eyes before the tears could fall. She didn't have time to break down. The girls needed her. The day was exhausting. Olivia spent hours changing diapers, taking their temperature every hour, giving them medicine. Lily had thrown up twice. The first time was so scary that Olivia almost called an ambulance, but she managed to calm her, cleaned everything up, and changed their clothes. Daisy couldn't stop crying. Nothing worked. Not cuddles, not songs, not toys. Olivia tried soup, tried a bottle, tried sugar water. Nothing worked properly. She called the community clinic 3 times, but the line was always busy. She thought about going to the emergency room, but she didn't have the money to pay for transportation, and carrying 2 sick babies on the bus, alone, seemed impossible. So she did what she could. She took care of them, alone, as always. In the middle of the afternoon, When she finally managed to get both of them to sleep at the same time, Olivia sat on the old living room couch, completely exhausted. She looked around. The apartment was small, the walls peeling, the furniture second-hand, but it was theirs. It was what she had managed to build with so much effort. And now she felt like everything was hanging by a thread. If she lost her job, she lost the apartment. She lost the stability that had taken months to achieve. She would be back to square one. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply, trying not to crumble. "You can handle it," she whispered to herself. You always handle it, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't sure if that was true. At 6 in the evening, someone knocked on the door. Olivia was in the room, changing Daisy's diaper, when she heard it. She frowned. She wasn't expecting anyone. She finished quickly, left Daisy in her crib with a stuffed toy, and went to the door. She looked through the peephole and froze. Alexander Sterling was on the other side, holding 2 large grocery bags. Olivia opened the door slowly, completely confused. "Mr. Sterling." "Hi," he said. Simply, "May I come in?" She looked at the bags, then at him, then at the messy apartment behind her. Sure. Sorry about the mess." Alexander walked in, and Olivia realized, mortified, the state of the place. Baby clothes scattered on the sofa, bottles in the sink, toys on the floor, the smell of medicine in the air. But Alexander didn't seem to notice, or if he did, he showed no judgment. "Where can I put these?" He lifted the bags. In the kitchen." "Over there." He went to the small kitchen and began taking things out of the bags. Fresh fruits, ready-made soup in thermos containers, natural juices, good brand children's medicine, wipes, a new digital thermometer, even some jars of organic baby food. Olivia stood in the doorway, unable to process what she was seeing. "I don't understand," she finally said. "Why are you—" "David told me your daughters were sick," Alexander said without looking at her, organizing the items. "I thought you might need a few things. But you didn't have to do that." He stopped, finally looking at her. "You are not going to lose your job." Olivia felt tears rise but held them back. "I thought that—" "I know," he said, gently. "But you won't. Everyone has emergencies. Children get sick. It's part of life. But I just started. I didn't want to—" "Olivia," he said her name firmly, "you are not going to lose your job for taking care of your daughters. Understood?" She nodded, her throat too tight to speak. Alexander went back to arranging the things. "The soup is ready, just needs heating up. The medications are the ones recommended for their age. I spoke to a pediatrician before buying them. Instructions are on the box, and if you need anything else, call me. My number is on the card there." He placed a business card on top of the refrigerator. Lily started crying in the room, a weak, tired cry. "Go ahead," Alexander said. "I'll finish up here." Olivia hesitated, but the crying became more insistent. She ran to the room, picked up Lily, gently rocking her. "Shh, my love, it's okay." Lily rested her hot little head on her shoulder. When Olivia returned to the living room with Lily in her arms, Alexander was already at the door. "They'll be fine," he said, and there was experience in his voice. "Fever in babies is scary, but it usually passes quickly with the right treatment." "Thank you," Olivia managed to say, "for all of this. I don't know how to thank you." "No need," he gave a half smile. "I just wanted to check on you all." He nodded toward Lily. "Get well soon. And the other one too. Daisy." "Daisy!" he repeated, committing the name to memory. Then he left, gently closing the door behind him. Olivia stood there, holding Lily, listening to his footsteps descending the stairs. She walked to the door, leaned against it, and finally let the tears fall. They weren't tears of despair. They were tears of gratitude. Real. Deep. No one had ever done that for her. No one had shown up unasked, expecting nothing in return, just to help. She looked at the kitchen, at all the things he had brought, real food, good medicine, things she wouldn't have been able to buy without squeezing her budget even further. Lily calmed down in her arms, her little face still warm, but not as much as in the morning. "See, my darling," Olivia whispered, "there are still good people in the world." She heated the soup, gave more medicine to both, and managed to get Daisy to eat a little baby food. The fever started to drop little by little. When the girls finally slept peacefully, Olivia sat on the sofa with Alexander's card in her hand. She wasn't going to call, at least not today. But knowing that she could make all the difference, she looked at the room where her daughters slept, then at the kitchen full of things that a man who barely knew her had brought. And for the first time since everything started, Olivia allowed herself to believe that maybe she wasn't as alone as she thought. To believe that maybe, finally, she had found not just a job, but a place where she was seen as human, as a mother, as someone who deserved care too. She lay down on the sofa, pulled a thin blanket over her, and for the first time in days, slept a few hours straight, knowing that the next day, when she returned to work, she wouldn't be judged, she would be welcomed. And that changed everything. Olivia returned to work on Thursday. Lily and Daisy had gotten better. The fever had completely passed on Wednesday night, and they woke up more energetic, with their appetite back. Olivia almost cried with relief when she saw the two of them smiling again. She dropped the girls off at daycare with Ms. Helen, who made a point of asking how they were, and arrived at the office at 8 sharp. The receptionist nodded as she passed, a simple greeting, but warmer than before. Olivia went up to the second floor, straight to her desk. Everything was as she had left it, the pile of documents, the computer off, the empty mug. She turned on the computer, organized her folders, and started working. Half an hour later, David appeared. "Olivia, how are the girls?" She looked at him, surprised. It was the first time he had asked anything personal. "They are very well. The fever is gone. Thank you for asking." "That's good." He hesitated, as if wanting to say something more, but not knowing how. "Alexander wants to talk to you. When you have a moment, go up there." Olivia's stomach knotted. Now is fine, yes." She saved the document she was working on, stood up, and followed David to the elevator. Alexander's office was on the top floor. Olivia had only passed by a few times, always quickly, always in transit. Now she was going in for real. David knocked on the door. "Come in." Alexander's voice came from inside. David opened it, gestured for Olivia to enter, and closed the door behind her. The office was large, but not exaggerated. Glass walls with a view of the city, a dark wooden desk, shelves with books, awards, framed photos, everything organized, but with a personal touch. Alexander was standing near the window, looking out. When he heard the door, he turned. "Olivia, sit down, please." She sat in the chair in front of the desk, her hands sweating. Alexander sat down too, leaning back in his chair, his eyes fixed on her. "How are Lily and Daisy?" "Much better, thank you. And thank you for everything you brought. It helped a lot." "I'm happy to hear that." He spoke sincerely. "I know how scary it is when children get sick." Olivia blinked, surprised. "Do you have children?" Alexander hesitated, something passing over his face. A brief shadow. "I did. A daughter. She passed away a few years ago." The air left Olivia's lungs. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. There's no way you could. It's not something I talk about much." He gave a half-sad smile. Silence. Respectful. Heavy. Alexander cleared his throat, changing the tone. "But that's not why I called you here." He leaned slightly forward. "I wanted to talk about your work." Olivia felt her heart race. "Did I do something wrong?" "No. Quite the opposite." He laced his fingers on the desk. "You have a sensitivity that few people have, a different perspective. That sentence you said in the meeting weeks ago, it completely changed the campaign. It unlocked something the entire team wasn't managing to see." She didn't know how to respond. It was unintentional." "I know. And that's exactly why it was so valuable." Alexander leaned back again. "You weren't trying to impress. You were just being honest. Genuine. And that is rare. Olivia looked at her own hands. I just said what I thought. And it was perfect. He paused. Have you ever considered studying in this field? Creative work, advertising, communications. Olivia let out a quiet, humorless laugh. Study? Yes. She looked at him, and there was something in her eyes. It wasn't bitterness. It was just realism. I lost my parents young, she said, her voice calm but laden. My father died when I was 12, my mother when I was 15. I went to live with an aunt who could barely take care of her own children. I started working at 16, washing dishes, cleaning houses, whatever came up. I never had the time or money for college. I just learned to get by. Alexander didn't say anything. He just listened. Olivia continued, as if the words had been stored for too long. When I got pregnant with the girls, their father disappeared, literally. One day he was there, the next he had blocked my number and moved out of town. I was alone, pregnant with twins, alone, no family, no money. She took a deep breath. So no, I never thought about studying, I thought about surviving. And that's what I do. The silence that followed was not uncomfortable. It was different. Alexander didn't try to fill it with empty words. He didn't say, I'm sorry, automatically. He didn't offer pity. He just listened. And somehow, that meant more. You are strong, he finally said, and it didn't sound like a cliché. It sounded like recognition. I didn't have a choice. You did, Alexander spoke firmly. There's always a choice. You could have given up. You could have put the girls up for adoption. You could have let life knock you down. But you didn't. That's not a lack of choice. That's strength. Olivia felt her eyes sting but held it back. I just did what I had to do. No. You did more than that. He stood up, went to the window, stood with his back turned for a moment. My wife died during childbirth. Our daughter was born, but had complications. She lived for 3 days. Olivia held her breath. Alexander continued, his voice low. I closed myself off after that. I stopped feeling things. I built this company as a way to not think, to not remember. He turned at looking at her, but when I saw you in the reception that day with the 2 girls in your arms, desperate, fighting, I saw something I had forgotten. Determination, unconditional love, purpose. He returned to his chair, sat down. So it wasn't charity, Olivia. I didn't hire you out of pity. I hired you because I saw something real. Something this company needed. Olivia didn't know what to say. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Thank you. It was all she could whisper. Alexander nodded. Now, back to what I was saying. You have talent, and I won't let you waste that just because life didn't give you the opportunities it should have. I don't understand. You will. He gave a small, enigmatic smile. Just let me think about a few things. For now, keep doing what you are doing. And if you have more ideas, don't be afraid to speak up. Even if you think it's not your place. Sometimes the best ideas come from those who aren't trying to impress. Olivia nodded, still processing everything. You can go, Alexander said, gentle. And Olivia. She stopped at the door, looking back. You are doing an incredible job as a mother and as a professional. Don't doubt that. She smiled, a small but genuine smile. Thank you, Mr. Sterling. Alexander, you can call me Alexander. Olivia nodded and left. In the elevator, she leaned against the wall, letting out the breath she hadn't realized she was holding. For the first time in her life, someone had looked at her and seen more than just a woman struggling to survive. They had seen potential, and that changed everything. When she returned to her desk, Michael passed by and winked. Survived the meeting with the boss? I survived. He's a good guy, huh? Olivia looked at the computer screen, but her mind was far away. He is, she said, more to herself. He is. And for the first time in a long time, Olivia allowed herself to dream. Not big, not absurd, just possible. And possible was already more than she had before. 2 weeks after the conversation in Alexander's office, Olivia received an email from HR subject, Professional Development Program. She opened it, curious. The text was direct. The company was offering partial scholarships for employees interested in technical and professional courses related to the creative field. Her name had been nominated for a spot in the Creative Production and Project Management course. Olivia read it 3 times, thinking she had misunderstood, but she hadn't. She went to Alexander's office during lunchtime and knocked on the door. "Come in." "I received an email," she said, still holding her phone. "About a course." Alexander looked up from his papers, already knowing what she was talking about. "So, are you going to accept?" I don't know if I can manage it." Olivia sat in the chair in front of him. "It's at night, 3 times a week. I would have to pick up the girls, leave them with someone, and the company will cover the costs of nighttime childcare," Alexander interrupted calmly. "It's already in the package." Olivia stopped. "What?" "If you accept, we'll cover it. Childcare, course materials, everything. You just need to show up and study." She was speechless. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you have potential," he said, as if it were obvious. "And because wasting talent is foolish. Mine and yours." Olivia looked at her hands, processing. "I've never really studied before. I don't know if I'll be able to keep up." "You will," Alexander spoke with conviction. "And if you have difficulty, we'll help. But you will manage." She took a deep breath. "Okay, I accept." Alexander smiled. "Excellent. The course starts next week." The first class was daunting. Olivia arrived late, sweaty, after dropping the girls off at the nighttime childcare facility 2 blocks from the school. The room was full of younger people, most recently out of high school, with new backpacks and expensive notebooks. She sat in the back, trying not to draw attention. The professor, a man in his 40s named Robert, started talking about visual narrative, storytelling, campaign construction. Olivia took notes on everything, every word, every example. During the break, some people chatted animatedly. She stayed quiet, reviewing her notes. First time studying. A woman sat next to her. She must have been in her early 30s, short hair, friendly smile. "It is," Olivia admitted. "And you?" "Me too. I dropped out of college years ago. Now I'm back." She extended her hand. "I'm Michelle." "Olivia." They talked for a few minutes. Michelle worked at a printing company, wanted to change careers. Olivia mentioned she worked at an agency, but was an administrative assistant. "But not for long, right?" Michelle said confidently. "If you're here, it's because you want more." Olivia smiled. "I do, I want more." The first few weeks were difficult. Olivia woke up at 5:30, prepared the girls, dropped them off at daycare, went to work. Left at 6, picked up Lily and Daisy, gave them a quick bath and dinner, took both to the nighttime childcare, and rushed to class. She got home almost at 11 at night, picked up the already sleeping girls, put them in their cribs, and collapsed, exhausted. But something was changing. She was learning, truly. She learned about target audiences, about how a color can change a campaign's entire message, about how words have weight. She learned that creativity wasn't a gift. It was technique. It was study. It was work. And she was good at it. At work, things also changed. Alexander started calling her into some meetings. Not all of them, only the ones he thought she could contribute to. The first time, Olivia was silent. She just listened, took notes, absorbed. The second time, she offered a timid opinion on the tone of a campaign. The third time, she proposed a complete idea. And it worked. The team was surprised. Chloe, who had previously treated her with disdain, now asked for her opinion on some projects. David started delegating more complex tasks. Michael joked that she would steal his job in 6 months. Olivia just smiled and kept working. One Saturday morning, she was in the school library, studying for a test. Lily and Daisy were playing with building blocks on the rug beside her. Michelle appeared, surprised. "You brought the girls?" "I had no one to leave them with," Olivia said, without taking her eyes off her notebook. "But they're being quiet." Michelle sat down, looking at the twins. They are beautiful. How old are they? 1 year old now. And you manage all this? Work, course and them? Olivia finally looked up. I don't have a choice, so I manage. Michelle shook her head, impressed. You're amazing. You know that? Olivia laughed. I'm just doing what needs to be done. No, there are a lot of people who would give up. You didn't. Daisy crawled up to Olivia, pulling on her pants. Olivia picked her up, kissed her chubby cheek. Giving up is not an option when you have these two counting on you. Mid-semester, Professor Robert assigned a group project to create a complete campaign for a fictional client. Olivia was placed in a group with 3 people, 2 younger guys who spent more time on their phones than working, and Michelle. They basically did everything. Olivia proposed the concept. Michelle helped with the visual part. The guys showed up on the day of the presentation. When it was their turn, Olivia nervously stepped up to the front. She had never presented anything to so many people before, but when she started speaking, something happened. The words came out naturally, confident. She explained the concept, the strategy, the target audience. Showed how every element of the campaign connected with the others. Robert listened in silence, arms crossed. When she finished, he nodded. A grade of A. Best work in the class so far. Olivia felt her face flush, but she smiled. Michelle gave her a tight hug when they returned to their seats. You crushed it. We crushed it, Olivia corrected. But deep down, she knew. She was flourishing. At work, Alexander called Olivia into a meeting with an important client. She was just going to observe, he said. But in the middle of the presentation, the client asked a question that no one could answer properly. Alexander looked at Olivia. What do you think? All eyes turned to her. Olivia took a deep breath. I think the problem isn't the message. It's the channel, she said, choosing her words. You're trying to reach a young audience, but you're using platforms they no longer frequent. You need to go where they truly are. Good work in there. It wasn't warm, but it was recognition. And Olivia accepted it. That night, exhausted after class, Olivia picked up the girls from childcare. They were awake, excited, drooling on their toys. On the way home, Lily pointed to the moon. Moon! She shouted. Excited, Olivia looked up, smiling. Yes, my love, the moon. Daisy imitated her sister, pointing too. Moon! Olivia stopped for a moment, holding the two of them, looking at the sky. She was tired, exhausted in fact, but she was also happy. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just surviving, she was growing, learning, building something. And the girls would grow up seeing this. They would see that their mother didn't give up, that she fought, that she studied, that she became more. Let's go home, Olivia whispered, kissing both of them, and she kept walking, one step at a time, forward. Always forward. It all started with a lunch. Olivia was in the kitchenette, eating a sandwich she had made at home, when Alexander walked in. He grabbed a coffee, looked around, and sat at the table across from her. May I? She nodded, slightly surprised. They sat in silence for a few minutes. It wasn't uncomfortable, just silence. How is the course going? Alexander asked, stirring his coffee. Difficult, Olivia admitted, but good. I'm learning a lot. You're doing well. Robert sent me an email last week. Said you're one of the best students. Olivia stopped chewing, surprised. He sent you an email. I asked him to keep me informed. I wanted to know if the investment was worth it. And is it? Alexander smiled slightly, far beyond what I expected. Olivia felt her face flush. She went back to eating her sandwich, unsure what to say. May I ask you something? Alexander said after a moment. Of course. Why didn't you give up? He looked at her, genuinely curious. It would have been easier. Hand over the girls and start over alone without the burden. But you didn't do that. Olivia thought for a moment. Because they didn't ask to be born. They didn't ask to have a father who ran away. They didn't ask for any of this. She looked at her hands. I asked for them. I chose to have them. So I wasn't going to throw the responsibility away just because it got hard. Alexander nodded, as if the answer made perfect sense. You have a clear sense of responsibility. That is rare. My mother taught me, Olivia said, her voice softening. Before she died, she said I could be anything in life, and as long as I wasn't a coward. Giving up on the girls would be cowardice. Alexander was silent, processing. Your mother sounds like she was a good person. She was the best. They sat there until the end of the break, talking little, but feeling a lot. The lunches became routine, not every day, but 2-3 times a week Alexander would show up in the kitchenette at the same time as Olivia. He would sit down, talk, sometimes about work, sometimes about nothing. One of those days he talked about his childhood. My father was strict, Alexander said, looking at his coffee. Military, everything had to be perfect. I learned early not to disappoint. And did you ever disappoint him? Once. He smiled humorlessly, when I said I wanted to work in advertising. He thought it was ridiculous. He wanted me to follow a military career like him. But you didn't. No. And he never forgave me for it. Alexander paused. He died without us reconciling. Olivia didn't say, I'm sorry. She knew words like that didn't help. She just listened. And your mother? She asked after a while. She was kind, but quiet. Never confronted my father. I think she was afraid. He sighed. She died of cancer when I was 23. It was quick. You were alone. I was, until I met my wife. Olivia knew this was delicate territory. He had mentioned it before, but never gone into detail. What was her name? Eleanor. His voice softened as he spoke. She was everything I wasn't. Light-hearted, funny, saw beauty in everything. How did you meet? In a coffee shop. He smiled, remembering. She spilled coffee all over me, apologized while laughing. I fell in love right then. Olivia smiled too. She sounds special. She was. Alexander was quiet for a moment. When she got pregnant, it was the happiest day of my life. We had been trying for years. It finally happened. Olivia felt her chest tighten, knowing what was coming. But the birth had complications. He continued, his voice getting lower. She hemorrhaged. The doctors tried everything, but they couldn't save her. And the baby and our daughter was born with heart problems. She lived for 3 days. Alexander, Olivia whispered. After that, I shut down. He looked at her. I stopped feeling things. I built this company as a way to fill the void, to not have to think, to not have to remember. And did it work? For a while, he paused. But when I saw you that day, in the reception with the 2 girls, something stirred in me. I can't quite explain it. But it was like I remembered what it means to fight for something real. Olivia held back tears. You gave me a chance when no one else would. Because I saw something real in you, Alexander said firmly. When I lost my wife, I stopped feeling things. But you reminded me that truth still exists. She didn't know what to say. She just sat there, feeling the weight of those words. Thank you. It was all she could whisper. Alexander nodded, finishing his coffee. Thank you for reminding me that it's still worth caring. In the following weeks, the conversations continued. Olivia told him about her father, who had died in a work accident. About her mother, who had struggled with depression afterward and eventually succumbed. About the aunt who took her in, but who never truly wanted her there. Alexander listened to everything, without interrupting, without judging. Sometimes he shared too, about the dreams he had abandoned, about the guilt he carried, about the loneliness he lived with, even surrounded by people. Have you ever thought about starting over? Olivia asked one of those days. Meeting someone new? Alexander shook his head. No, it wouldn't be fair. I still carry her with me. But she would want you to be happy. I know. He looked out the window. But happiness seems distant. Like it's not for me anymore. Olivia understood. She sometimes felt that way too, as if happiness were a luxury she couldn't afford. Maybe we learn again, she said softly. One day, Alexander looked at her, and there was something different in his eyes. It wasn't pity, it wasn't attraction, it was recognition, as if he saw in her someone who understood. Someone who had gone through the fire and emerged with scars, but still standing. Maybe, he agreed. They sat there in comfortable silence until the break ended. People started to notice. Janet commented to Olivia one day, "You and Alexander are becoming friends, aren't you?" Olivia shrugged. "We talk sometimes." "He never does that with anyone." "You must be special." Olivia didn't answer, but inside she knew it wasn't about being special. It was about being real. Alexander was tired of masks, of pretenses, of people who said what he wanted to hear, and Olivia never pretended, never tried to impress. She was just herself, and maybe that was exactly what he needed. Someone genuine. In a world full of lies, truth was what mattered most, and they both had found that in each other. It wasn't romance, not yet. It was something deeper. It was respect. It was trust. It was the slow, solid construction of something that could last. Without haste, without cliches, just real. The general meeting was scheduled for a Friday morning. Olivia didn't know what it was about. No one did. Alexander had sent an email requesting the presence of all employees in the auditorium at 9 sharp. Rumors ran through the corridors. Some thought it was a bonus announcement. Others, that the company had closed a big contract. Some even speculated about layoffs. Olivia sat in the middle of the auditorium, next to Michael, who was nervously chewing on a croissant. "Do you know what this is about?" he asked. "I have no idea." The auditorium was full. About 200 people, designers, writers, finance staff, HR, operations, everyone. At 9 o'clock sharp, Alexander walked onto the stage. He wore a grey suit, no tie. His demeanor was serious, but there was something different in his posture, something lighter. "Good morning, everyone," he began, his steady voice echoing through the space. "Thank you for coming. I know taking everyone away from work on a Friday morning is not ideal, but what I have to say is important. Absolute silence. When I founded Sterling Creative 12 years ago, my goal was to build a company of excellence, win awards, close big contracts, be a market leader." He paused. "And we achieved all of that." Some people nodded, proud. "But in recent months, I realized something. Technical excellence is not enough." Alexander walked across the stage, his hands in his pockets. "Our company is made up of people, and if we don't take care of the people, we are nothing." Olivia frowned, curious as to where this was going. "So I decided it's time to change some things, to put humanity at the center of what we do." He stopped in the center of the stage. "And that's why I am announcing 3 new projects today." The screen behind him lit up. Project 1, On-Site Childcare. Starting next month, we will open a childcare facility here in the building. Alexander announced, employees with children up to 5 years old will be able to leave their children here with qualified professionals at no additional cost. It's a company benefit. Murmurs of surprise ran through the auditorium. Olivia felt her heart accelerate. She looked at Alexander, who continued speaking, but his eyes briefly passed over her. "I know many of you face difficulties with logistics, schedules, and the cost of childcare. This often impacts work and personal life." Alexander continued, "That is not fair, so we are going to fix it." Some women in the auditorium began to smile, visibly emotional. One of them discreetly wiped away tears. The screen changed. Project 2 Professional Development Program. In addition, we are launching a professional development program aimed especially at mothers with young children, Alexander explained. Many talented professionals get stuck in their careers due to lack of opportunity, time, or support. We will offer courses, mentorship, and internal promotion because talent is not lacking, opportunity is. Applause began to echo, this time more intense. Olivia felt her eyes burn. She knew exactly where this came from. Every word Alexander said was a reflection of what she had lived through, the barriers she faced. The doors that closed just because she had 2 small daughters. Michael nudged her arm. "Man, this is incredible." Olivia just nodded, not trusting her own voice. The screen changed again. Project 3. New creative structure. And last, but not least, we are going to restructure our creative team. Alexander spoke more seriously now. We realized we were stuck, doing the same old thing, losing the essence of what it means to truly connect with people. He looked directly toward the middle of the auditorium, to where Olivia was sitting. So I decided to promote someone who, in recent months, showed me what it is to have sensibility, what it is to see beyond the obvious, what it is to create with truth. Olivia felt her entire body tense up. Olivia Hayes, please come up front. The entire auditorium turned to her. The air left Olivia's lungs. She stood still for 2 seconds, unable to move. Michael gently pushed her shoulder. Go! Olivia stood up, her legs wobbly. She walked down the central aisle, feeling all eyes on her. She climbed the stage steps slowly, her heart pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. Alexander waited for her to reach his side before continuing. He turned to her for a moment, and there was something in his eyes that she recognized. Pride. Genuine. Then he turned back to face the audience. Olivia started here as an administrative assistant, he said, his voice steady. But it quickly became clear that she had something rare, a human perspective, a capacity to understand what truly matters in the campaigns we create, and today I am promoting her to creative coordinator. Applause erupted throughout the auditorium. Olivia stood still, unable to process it. Creative coordinator. Her, the woman who 3 months ago had been barred at the reception desk with 2 babies in her arms. Alexander turned to her, extending his hand. Congratulations, Olivia. She shook his hand and had to bite her lip not to cry right there. Thank you, she managed to whisper. He nodded, a discreet smile on his lips, then turned back to the audience. These changes start now, and I expect everyone to support them, because a company that doesn't care for its people doesn't deserve the success it has. Alexander finished. Thank you all. More applause, this time a standing ovation. Alexander stepped off the stage first. Olivia stood there for a few more seconds, seeing people stand up, seeing the smiles, the genuine emotion on many faces. She stepped down too, and was immediately surrounded. Janet was the first, hugging her tightly. You deserve this so much. Michael patted her on the back. I knew you were going far. Even Chloe, who had always kept her distance, nodded her head in a gesture of respect. David appeared, smiling. Welcome to creative leadership. Olivia could barely speak. She just thanked them, one person at a time, trying to register every face, every word. When the auditorium began to empty, she searched for Alexander with her eyes. He was near the exit, talking to someone from HR. But when he saw Olivia looking, he gestured for her to approach. She waited for his conversation to finish. When they were alone in the hallway, she finally managed to organize her thoughts. You didn't have to do all that. I did, Alexander said, simply, his hands in his pockets. The company needed it, but it was because of me, he shook his head. It was because of what you taught me. He corrected, looking directly into her eyes, that a company without a soul is just a building full of unhappy people. That caring for people isn't a favor, it's the baseline. Olivia felt the tears finally escape. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to. Alexander spoke firmly, but there was kindness in his voice. Just lead well. People are counting on you now. I will. I promise. He smiled, a small but real smile. I know you will. They stood there in the quiet hallway, the weight of the moment between them. It wasn't awkwardness. It was recognition of how much they had both changed, of how much they had both grown. Alexander. Thank you for everything. He nodded. Thank you for reminding me that it's still worth caring. Olivia smiled, wiping away her tears. And then she walked back to her desk, which would soon be another one, feeling that for the first time in her life, she wasn't just in the right place. She belonged there. Truly. 6 months later. Olivia Hayes was sitting in the front row of the technical school auditorium, wearing a simple blue dress she had bought especially for the occasion. Next to her, Lily and Daisy fiddled with the chair legs, restless but beautiful in their little white dresses. And in the row behind, discreet but present, was Alexander. When her name was called to receive the course completion certificate, Olivia walked onto the stage with her heart racing. Professor Robert handed her the diploma, shaking her hand firmly. "Congratulations, Olivia. You were one of the best students I've ever had. Thank you for everything." She descended the stage to applause, and when she returned to her seat, Lily stretched her arms out to her. Olivia picked her up, kissed her chubby cheek, and looked back. Alexander was smiling. A small smile, but full of pride. He had insisted on coming. Said he wouldn't miss that moment, and he was there. At work, things had completely changed. Olivia now had her own office. It wasn't big, but it was hers. A spacious desk, a new computer, glass walls overlooking the creative hallway. She led a team of 5 people, participated in client meetings, presented campaigns, made decisions, and Alexander trusted her completely. In board meetings, he would ask for her opinion before anyone else's. When an important client came in, he made sure Olivia was present. "She has the best creative eye in the company," he always said, and it wasn't flattery, it was the truth. The campaigns Olivia coordinated had something different, real emotion, genuine connection. People felt it. The agency had won 3 major awards in recent months. All 3 had her touch. Lily and Daisy were growing fast. Now, almost 2 years old, they walked, spoke loose words, and laughed at everything. Their blonde hair was longer, their blue eyes more expressive, and they loved the on-site childcare. Every morning, Olivia would drop them off there before heading up to the office. They would run to the toys, barely waving goodbye to their mother. In the afternoon, when Olivia went down to pick them up, the 2 would come running, shouting, "Mommy!" with that excitement that made her heart melt. And sometimes Alexander would go down with her. He had made a habit of stopping by the childcare at the end of the day. He said he liked to see the children happy, that it reminded him of the purpose behind everything they did, but Olivia knew it was more than that. He genuinely cared. Lily had become attached to him. Whenever she saw Alexander, she would stretch out her arms, asking to be held. And he would pick her up without hesitation, making faces that made her laugh. Daisy was shyer, but she liked him too. She would watch, curious, until he offered his hand. Then she would hold on, confident. "They like you," Olivia said one of those days, watching Alexander with the 2 of them. "They're easy to like." He replied, Lily clinging to his neck. "Just like their mother." Olivia felt her face flush and looked away. The lunches continued, but now they were different, longer, more personal. They didn't just talk about work. They talked about life. Alexander talked about the places he wanted to see but had never been to. Olivia talked about the dreams she had as a child, before life got hard. "I wanted to be a writer," she confessed one day, stirring her salad. "I would write stories in a notebook, invent characters, entire worlds." "Why did you stop?" "Life happened." She shrugged. "And writing doesn't pay the bills." "But does it still make you happy?" Olivia thought. "I don't know. It's been so long since I've written anything." "You should try again," Alexander said. "Serious. We spend so much time surviving that we forget to live." She looked at him, surprised by the depth of that. "Did you forget too?" "I did, for a long time," he admitted. "But I'm trying to remember." They looked at each other for a moment. It wasn't awkward. It was intense. Olivia looked away first, her heart racing. One Saturday morning, Olivia was at the park with the girls when her cell phone rang. It was Alexander. "Hi," she answered, surprised. "Hi, sorry to call on the weekend. Are you busy?" "I'm at the park with the girls. Why?" "I thought I'd take you all out for lunch, if you want." Olivia was speechless for a second. "Lunch?" "Yes, nothing formal, just, I don't know. I thought it would be nice." She looked at Lily and Daisy, who were playing in the sand. All right. Where? I'll pick you up in an hour. He hung up before she could ask more. Alexander showed up on time, driving a discreet but comfortable car. Olivia put the girls in the car seats he had installed in the back. She hadn't even known he had those. You bought car seats? I had someone install them yesterday, he said, as if it were nothing special. It's more practical this way. Olivia didn't say anything. She just got into the car, her heart racing. He took the three of them to a quiet restaurant with a kids' area. Lily and Daisy were delighted with the toys. They had lunch talking about random things. Movies, music, nonsense. Nothing deep, but comfortable. At one point, Daisy spilled juice on her blouse. Olivia quickly got up to clean it, but Alexander was faster. He grabbed napkins, carefully wiped it up, making Daisy laugh with funny faces. You would have been an amazing father. Alexander looked at her hand over his. He didn't pull away. He just stayed there, feeling the warmth. Thank you, he whispered. When Alexander dropped them off at home late that afternoon, he helped carry the girls to the door. Thank you for the day, Olivia said, Lily sleeping on her shoulder, Daisy on his. It was good. We should do it more often. We should. They looked at each other again. Another one of those moments. Alexander took a hesitant step. He kissed Daisy's forehead, who was sleeping, and then, almost without thinking, kissed Olivia's forehead too. It was quick, almost imperceptible, but it changed everything. Good night, Olivia. Good night, Alexander. He left, and Olivia stood still at the door, her heart pounding irregularly. It wasn't just respect anymore. It wasn't just friendship anymore. It was something different, something that was growing slowly, without haste, but inevitably. That night, after putting the girls to bed, Olivia sat on the sofa and thought about everything. She had arrived here desperate, alone, hopeless, and now she had a job she loved, healthy, happy daughters. And Alexander, who had seen past her desperation, who had given her a chance when no one else would, who had invested in her, believed in her, walked beside her, not out of charity, but out of choice. And maybe, just maybe, this was turning into something more. She picked up her cell phone, looking at his last message. Thank you for today. It was one of the best days I've had in a long time. Olivia smiled, typing back with me too. And while the girls slept, she thought about the day it all began, the day she was prevented from having an interview, the day someone decided to see beyond, and she realized that sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest gestures, a look, a chance, a choice. And everything that comes after is just the beginning of something real. If this story touched your heart,